Guys, before we start today's ridiculous video, we've got to thank one of the longest sponsors of the channel, Blackout Coffee. If you're looking for some amazing coffee, a coffee company with American values, we're putting a discount code below the video. So guys, we've got some pretty interesting crap going on right now. I don't know how many of you watched the debate the other night, but it was atrocious. I personally have no idea what Tim Walz is thinking. I don't know if he scripted his answers. I don't know if he's just stupid. It's a very likely possibility though. Like, I think people need to understand that. You understand that if you vote for Kamala, you're also voting for Tim Walz, and they're both just a pair of Marys in terms of being stupid. No, you don't believe me? Well, why don't we go over a couple of the highlights.
Only later in your political career did you change your position. Why?
Yeah, I sat in that office with those Sandy Hook parents. I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it. Look, the NRA, I was an NRA guy for a long time. They used to teach gun safety. I'm of an age where my shotgun was in my car so I could pheasant hunt after football practice. That's not where we live today. And several things I want to mention on this is, talking about cities and where it's at, the number one where the most firearm deaths happen in Minnesota are rural suicides. And we have an epidemic of children getting guns and shooting themselves. And so we have, and we should look at all of the issues, making sure folks have health care and all that, but I want to be very careful. This idea of stigmatizing mental health, just because you have a mental health issue doesn't mean you're violent. And I think what we end up doing is we start looking for a scapegoat. Sometimes it just is the guns. It's just the guns. And there are things that you can do about it. But I do think that this is one, and I think this is a healthy conversation. I think there's a capacity to find solutions on this that work, protect Second Amendment, protect our children. That's our priority.
Gentlemen, thank you. Margaret?
Oh, good. You've become friends with school shooters. Is that what you're spending your free time on? You went to prison and are hanging out with potential school shooters? Or are you talking about before, like grooming them into doing something like that? What do you mean, Tim? But he went on to say during this debate that he is a fan of banning assault weapons. He says that sometimes it's simply the gun's fault. Sometimes the gun is the problem. Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. So why don't we go through what a gun legitimately is? It is a tool in every sense of the word.
Minnesotans, and I especially amongst them, are not going to stand by and let people keep making this about the Second Amendment. We've got gun safety bill on the table, and we're going to get it passed. I'm going to sign it, and this is what's going to happen. We're going to have universal background checks. We're going to have red flag laws, keep guns out of the hands of people. And we all know damn well, weapons of war have no place in our schools, in our churches, in our banks, or anyone wants to live in peace. When I first started in Congress, I had an A rating from the NRA. I have straight Fs now. I sleep just fine at night. We're going to have lawful gun owners not be impinged upon one bit to continue doing what they've already done. These are smart policies.
I have some additional questions for you, Tim. Golly, I wish I could have interviewed him or been the person asking the questions during this debate, but let me just ask him now. Does a gun have a brain? No. You sure, Tim? Is a gun alive? No. Does a gun have freedom of choice? Does a gun do stuff on its own? If your answer is no to all of those, then no, it is never just about the guns. It's about the people. It's about the person behind it. That goes the same for alcohol. That goes the same for drugs. That goes the same for literally anything that isn't a living thing. Sometimes I feel like these politicians or just whoever's on the left, they legitimately don't think before they answer questions. Like, do you legitimately believe that sometimes guns are the problem? I would get that checked out. I would go to a doctor and figure out why you're believing something that is not living can act on its own and can be a problem.
Now, we of course had a debate last night, a vice presidential debate. I thought it went pretty well. Now, it's funny because, we did this debate, and then I talked to the president afterwards, and we talked a little bit about, what actually happened, and, some of the points that I made, some of the points that Governor Walz made, and he made this observation. He said that Tim Walz said that he was friends with school shooters twice. And that's something I actually didn't notice, that Tim Walz had said that on the debate stage. And I said, did he really say that, sir? And he said, I'm telling you, man, go and watch the clips. He said he was friends with school shooters twice. And I said that was probably only the third or fourth dumbest comment Tim Walz made that night then. Because look, I got to be honest, I feel a little bad for Governor Walz.
I mean, at the end of the day, what kind of country do we live in? Do we live in a country that is a free state where we decide what we do with ourselves? If the answer is yes to that, then there should be no administrative laws, just laws that have a consequence if you misuse the tool. Now, that's a real basket case in itself, because if you ask the ATF and then you ask me, someone who believes in the Constitution, what would be a consequence in terms of gun ownership? They would say, well, if you have a weird stock on your AR pistol, then you're breaking the law. You better go to jail. That's stupid. That's dumb. No one believes in that except for the agency enforcing it. That's it. If you were to ask me what is a good consequence in terms of gun ownership, if you get pissed off one day and you don't shoot somebody in self-defense and you just murder somebody. But at the end of the day, is it really the gun that's the problem there? No. So where do we take all this? They debated this subject for a little bit on there, and they kept saying, well, there's something that we need to change. The only thing that we can change is more good guys with guns out there. That's it. You're not going to take a ton of guns off the street because people won't give them to you, and it's too dangerous for the ATF or for anyone else because it's your property. I don't know.